My husband and brother hated me to the bone. Just because Lin Xianshui said I bullied her in every possible way. On the day of my wedding, I was abducted by bandits and tortured to death. Right before I died, I saw my husband and brother walk out from behind the bandits, with looks of disgust on their faces. Lu Yao, you have a heart like a viper. You bullied Xuer, and this is your retribution. You are so filthy and vicious. You don't deserve to be human. With tears glistening in her eyes, Lin Xianshui said sorrowfully, Ah, Yao, do not commit evil again in your next life. I died a violent death in the wilderness, my face unrecognizable, while Lin Xiangshui returned to the capital to become the real prime minister's wife. The wind howled fiercely. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at my 15th birthday banquet. Lin Xiangshui was tearing her own dress while smiling smugly at me. Lu Yao, have you thought about how you are going to explain this later? I kicked her into the pond with one foot and stomped her head down into the water. Didn't you say I bullied you? I'll show you what real bullying looks like. The pain from right before my death in my past life lashed at my heart like whips, hurting so much I could barely breathe. Opening my eyes again, before me was Lin Shui, whose features had not yet fully matured. I had actually returned to 4 years ago. There was no one around. Lin Xiangshui had already pulled out the jade hairpin my mother gave me and smashed it to pieces. Then she tore the hem of her skirt and slumped onto the ground. Who do you think Brother Ziyu will believe later, you or me? A look of calculation and smugness flashed in her eyes, and she put on a show, weeping while speaking. Yao, I didn't mean to break your hairpin. Please let me go. It is my fault, please. I reached out and grabbed her hair, dragging her face to smash against the rockery beside us. Lin Xiangshui, didn't you say I was bullying you? Then let's make it real. What does a torn skirt count for? I might as well ruin this face of yours. Lin Xiangshui was caught off guard. Her face was scraped, covered in blood, and the side of her forehead swelled up high. Lu Yao! You are crazy! Her eyes revealed shock, clearly not having anticipated my actions. Yes, I am crazy. You've messed with a crazy person now. I sneered and clenched my hand tight. Today is my birthday banquet, and Lin Xianshui deliberately lured me into the garden alone. Soon, the guests passing by the garden would stumble upon Lin Xianshui sitting on the ground crying and begging me. Afterwards, my brother Lu Ziyu would tenderly help Lin Xianshui up and reprimand me for my unruly behavior and bullying a peer. Even though I tried to explain in every way, my brother publicly pinned the blame on me. My reputation for being unruly and arrogant spread from this day forth. Thinking of everything that would happen later, I kicked Lin Shui in the stomach and sent her tumbling into the pond. Ah, the spring water in March still carried a chill. Lin Xiangshui struggled in the water in panic, her hair spreading out and floating like waterweed. Help. I stood on the shore and ruthlessly stepped her head back into the water just as it surfaced. Lin Xiangshui, who is going to save you. Don't forget, it was you who designed the plan to drive everyone else out of the garden. Lin Xiangshui struggled even more violently in the water, her hands paddling wildly. Beg you, save. Beg me. My gaze was as cold as a blade. In my past life, I was pure and naive, unaware of why she was like this. Later, I realized she was my father's illegitimate daughter with a mistress, living in the Duke's manor for years under the guise of a cousin. She schemed and framed me in every possible way, just to take everything from me, including my life. Now that I've started over, how could I give her this chance again? Seeing that the time was about right, my good brother Lu Ziyu should be bringing the guests to the garden. I withdrew the foot stepping on Lin Xiangshui's head, squatted down and shouted anxiously, Xuer, grab my hand, quick, I'll pull you up. The will to survive made Lin Xiangshui immediately grab my hand, trying to use the leverage to climb ashore. But the instant she grabbed my hand, I went with the momentum and fell into the water too. The guests entering the garden, saw me fall into the water at that exact moment. Eldest Miss Lu has fallen into the water. Someone come! Quick! Save them! Quick! Go report to the Duke and the Madam. The scene turned into a chaotic mess. I'd barely hit the water before I was saved by a maid who was a strong swimmer. The maid brought over a thick cloak and covered me with it. When everyone's eyes were focused on me, only two gazes looked toward Lin Shanshui immediately. One was my brother, Lu Ziyu, and the other was my husband from my previous life, Gu Jingcheng. Lin Shanshui was also rescued ashore by the servants. Her face was deathly pale, her lips drained of color, and her soaking wet hair was scattered messily over her face. Shuer, how is Shuer? Lu Ziyu walked over to Lin Shanshui with concern, his brows showing unconcealable worry. The pond water washed away the bloodstains on Lin Shanshui's face, and also washed away the color from her cheeks. She was shivering, having almost no strength to speak, only able to shed tears silently. Lu Ziyu had someone send Lin Shanshui back to her room to rest, and ordered someone to call the estate doctor to examine her. In his eyes, he only saw the delicate Lin Shanshui, as if he didn't see me, his own sister. The old me would have felt lost and heartbroken, but now I just feel disgusted. Only after giving these orders did Lu Ziyu turn to look at me, asking with a probing gaze. Ah Yao, how did Shuer fall into the water? I held my handkerchief and wiped the corners of my eyes. Shuer is truly silly. I only said a few words to her, and she jumped into the water out of shame, saying she had no face to live. What did you say to her? Lu Ziyu's eyes instantly surged with monstrous rage, sweeping towards me. Shuer has a sensitive and delicate nature, and living as a guest in our home is already hard enough. How could you speak so harshly to her? You really are too spoiled. With just a few words, Lu Ziyu pinned the guilt on me, calling me spoiled in front of everyone. He didn't think for me at all what kind of impact it would have on a girl's reputation for an older brother to scold his legitimate sister for being spoiled in front of outsiders. I said to her. I bit my lip, seemingly hesitating over and over. The circle of guests surrounding us all looked on with curiosity. The jade hairpin mother gave me was missing. I looked everywhere, only to find that Shuer had taken it to play with. When I found out, she smashed the hairpin in her panic. I got angry, so I scolded her a little. Who knew she would actually harbor thoughts of suicide? I wanted to save her, but by the time I finished speaking, tears were already streaming down my face. Slander and tears. This trick isn't something only Lin Shanshui knows how to use. I simply gave her a taste of her own medicine. Seeing the broken jade hairpin on the ground, realization dawned on everyone's faces. Taking someone's things without asking, isn't that just stealing? Miss Lu is truly kind-hearted, even falling into the water to save her. How can there be such a shameless person? If it were me, I wouldn't bother with her sort. Hearing this, Lu Ziyu's expression stiffened. There must be a misunderstanding here. Don't jump to conclusions. Wait for Shuer to wake up, and I'll ask her. I changed my clothes, fixed my makeup, and continued holding my birthday banquet in style. Quite a few noble ladies, thinking I had just been given a fright, gathered around me to ask if I was feeling all right. I sighed. I am fine, but Shuer's health has always been weak. Someone asked curiously. Which family is this Miss Lin from? How come we've never seen her before? She is a girl from my father's cousin's family, staying at the residence recently. I explained with my eyes lowered. Shuer needs to rest for a while. My brother is going to be so worried. My brother is kind-hearted and cares a lot for Shuer, as you all saw just now. As soon as I said this, the young ladies around me all changed their expressions. Lu Ziyu is the only legitimate son of the Duke of Lu's Manor, handsome and spirited, set to inherit the family estate in the future, and is the ideal husband in the eyes of many women in the capital. The third miss of the Minister of Rights' family twitched the corner of her mouth. We did indeed see young Master Lu's anxious look just now. It seems he is quite attentive to Miss Lin. Summonon followed up. Miss Lin hasn't been living in the Duke of Lu's manor for long, yet she can make young Master Lu so concerned. Miss Lin must be quite clever with her thoughts. A look of disdain appeared in the eyes of a few of them. They are all women who grew up in deep, high-walled mansions. They've seen plenty of distant relatives coming to climb the social ladder. Yao, be careful. I think this Miss Lin's tactics are not simple. Watch out for her playing tricks behind your back. She even wanted to talk to us earlier. Good thing we ignored her. In my past life, Lin Shui used the name of the Duke of Lu's estate to blend into the capital's circle of noble ladies. Now, I've cut off her hopes early on. Miss Lu. A refined male voice came from outside the pavilion. Everyone looked towards the sound to see a young gentleman standing outside the pavilion, tall and slender, with a bearing like bamboo. Though his clothes were simple, they couldn't hide the dignified air about his features. Gu Jingcheng. Back then, I was dazzled by this otherworldly bearing of his, secretly gave him my heart, and was bent on marrying this beast who harbored evil intentions. He was originally just a young lad from a fallen family who had a bit of talent and had passed the provincial exam. I spent money on him, found connections, got engaged to him, and helped him gain a firm foothold in the capital. My maternal grandfather was a veteran of 3 reigns, the Prime Minister of Great Yu. Gu Jingcheng used my grandfather's connections to rise rapidly through the ranks in court. How many times did he hold me affectionately in his arms? Ah, Yao, my heart is true to you. When I make a name for myself, I will surely repay you well. It is laughable that his so-called repayment turned out to be falsely accusing my grandfather's family of treason, leaving me to die a violent death in the wild. He had long since privately pledged himself to Lin Shui. Yet, he wanted my status as the legitimate daughter of the Duke's estate to serve as a stepping stone for his career. I frowned, showing displeasure on my face. Young Master Go, there are only female kin here. What are you doing here? Gu Jingcheng stood outside the pavilion, neither humble nor arrogant, his voice like a clear stream. I have composed a poem, which I wish to present to eldest Miss Lu as a birthday gift. Several noble ladies nearby covered their lips and smiled as they walked away. I raised an eyebrow, wanting to see what tricks Gu Jingcheng was up to in this life. Since you wrote it, let me have a look. I signaled my maid Kaiyue to fetch the poem. Gu Jingcheng, however, took a step forward, staring at me with a dark gaze, and lowered his voice. Yao, how could you slander Miss Lin in front of everyone today? You have truly disappointed me. Sure enough, just like in the previous life, without asking a single question. He just assumed I was bullying Lin Shui, even forcing me to apologize to Lin Shui many times. If I refused, he would show me a look of heartbroken disappointment. He never listened to my explanations, only looked at Lin Shui's tears. Now I didn't defend myself anymore, just backhanded him across the face. Gu Jingcheng, who the hell do you think you are? How dare you spout such nonsense in front of this young miss? I took the poem draft, gave it a casual glance, then crumpled it into a ball and threw it into the pond. With such meager literary talent, better not waste the pen and ink. This young miss looks down on it. Gu Jingcheng was used to being put on a pedestal by me. When had he ever suffered such humiliation in front of me? His handsome face flushed bright red, and he squeezed out a few words from between his teeth. Lu Yao, don't go too far. Acting like this, don't even dream that I would get engaged to a woman of your character. Gu Jingcheng brought up our engagement to threaten me. He seems to have forgotten that if it weren't for my sake, he wouldn't even be qualified to set foot in the Duke's manor today. I turned and glanced at the servants. Simonin, come. Kick this barking dog out of the Duke's manor for me. Yes, eldest miss. Gu Jingcheng angrily tried to brush away the servant's hands. Don't touch me. I can walk myself. Lu Yao, even if you beg me in the future, I won't come back. But with his frail scholar's body, How could he be a match for the servants? Several burly servants hoisted Gu Jingcheng right up and dragged him toward the back door. In the haste, one of his boots was even pulled off, and he was thrown out the door with one foot bare. My maid, Kaiyue, was dumbfounded. Doesn't Miss fancy young Master Gu? Now that things have turned so sour, how will you meet in the future? I lifted my tea and took a sip. Passed down the order. From now on, Gu Jingcheng is not qualified to set foot in the Duke's manor. At night, I was summoned to Father's courtyard. As soon as I stepped into the room, I heard a shout. Get on your knees. I looked up to see Father and Mother sitting at the head, while Lu Ziyu stood to the side, his eyes filled with sternness. Sitting beside Lu Ziyu was Lin Shui, who kept shedding tears. She had changed into clean clothes and her hair was combed, but her forehead was swollen high, and the injuries on her face looked frightening. Sheer has already told me everything. Ah Yao, you are simply bullying people too much. If I don't discipline you with the family rules today, there is no telling what kind of trouble you'll stir up in the future. Lu Ziyu pulled out a discipline ruler. Lin Shanshui stammered. Brother Ziyu, let it go. I am just an outsider. It is not worth hurting the harmony between you siblings over me. I looked at the ruler in Lu Ziyu's hand, remembering the scars it left on my body in my past life. In my past life, when I was slandered, Lu Ziyu stood up for Lin Shanshui and punished me in his capacity as my elder brother before our parents even arrived. He lashed at me with the ruler, saying he wanted me to learn my lesson well. The more I tried to defend myself, the more viciously Lu Ziyu beat me. Until I curled up in a corner crying, my face covered in tears as I admitted I was wrong. Me back was beaten until it bled profusely. Even after the wounds healed, the scars that remained couldn't be removed no matter how much ointment I applied. He said that because he was my elder brother, he hit me for my own good. Yet, I clearly saw that he always spoke softly and gently to Lin Shanshui, never uttering a single harsh word. I looked calmly at Lu Ziyu. Father and Mother are still alive. When did it become your turn to enforce the family rules? Brother, or is it that you can't wait to become the master of this duke's estate? A look of panic flashed across Lu Ziyu's face, and he hurriedly glanced at Father. Ah Yao, stop talking nonsense. Mother beckoned me to come closer. Ah Yao, what exactly happened today? I threw myself into Mother's arms, tears gushing out like a bursting dam. Mom, you have no idea. Ever since Swear came to the Duke's estate, Brother doesn't dote on me anymore. The South Sea pearl he got last month, the jade bracelet you gave him, he gave them all to Swear. Anyone who didn't know better would think Swear was his real sister. I turned my head to look at Father, whose face was stern. Dad, isn't that right? Upon hearing my last sentence, Father's expression stiffened slightly. Ah, Yao, don't speak nonsense. Ziyu only has you and Ah Wan as sisters, and he has always doted on you two very much. I have a younger sister named Lu Wan, only 5 years old this year, innocent and adorable. Pity that in my past life, when she was only 9, she was framed by Lin Shui and ended up in a brothel, where she was molested to death. Afterward, Lin Xianshui even pinned the blame on me. I clenched my palms tight and said to Father, then surely Brother wants to marry Shuer and make her my sister-in-law. Otherwise, why wouldn't he listen to a single word I say and only side with Shuer? Father's face looked frightfully grim. Mother's eyes also held a hint of scrutiny as she looked at Lin Xianshui. Ziyu, you haven't asked Ah Yao about what happened today. How could you decide Ah Yao was at fault based solely on Miss Lin's one-sided story? Lu Ziyu was momentarily speechless. Lin Shangshe immediately knelt down and kowtowed in a panic. Uncle, Aunt Shuer knows her station is lower. I have always kept my boundaries, and have absolutely no improper thoughts about Brother Ziyu. I wiped away my tears, turned my head, and asked in surprise. Huh, you keep your boundaries. Then why does Brother always give you gifts? Why do you always tattle to Brother? Is it you pestering Brother, Or brother pestering you? When Lu Ziyu heard Lin Xianshui say she had no improper thoughts, his face turned paler and paler. But he still forced himself to say, Ayao, you were wrong, plain and simple. Don't slander my relationship with Shuer. I remained leaning in mother's embrace and said coquettishly, Mom, look, brother is still protecting her. Brother doesn't even come to my courtyard, but lately he frequently goes to Shuer's place. Does this relationship even need slandering? Enough. Stop talking, all of you. Father slammed the table and stood up. I knew father took Lin Xianshui into the manor to give her a status so she could marry well in a couple of years. But this absolutely did not mean he would watch his own son and illegitimate daughter commit acts against moral order. Father interrupted our arguing. All of you, return to your courtyards and reflect on your mistakes. Ziyu, you come to my study tonight. That night, Lu Ziyu went to the study as father ordered. No one knew what they said, but after Lu Ziyu came out of the study, he fell ill. He was sick in bed for over half a month, looking depressed. Everyone thought Lu Ziyu had been disciplined too harshly by father. But I knew it was most likely that Lu Ziyu learned Lin Xianshui's true identity from father, and that is why he became heartsick. In the previous life, after Lu Ziyu found out that Lin Xianshui was his own sister, he also fell seriously ill. After recovering, he became even more determined to protect Lin Xianshui. He said, Shuer is innocent. She deserves the best of everything in this world. He'd love nothing more than to snatch everything of mine away and offer it up to Lin Shui, but in this life, I won't let him get better. Mother was worried sick because of Lu Ziyu's illness, while father was furious over the shady relationship between his eldest son and the illegitimate daughter. They just treated what happened between Lin Xianshui and me as petty squabbles between young girls, having no energy left to deal with it. Lu Ziyu was bedridden and didn't even know what was going on outside. Over the next month, I truly began to bully Lin Xianshui in the manor. She always put on a pitiful look, making others feel she was living a miserable life under someone else's roof in the Duke's manor, as if my mother mistreated her. But my mother clearly allocated a generous allowance to her every month, and she never lacked for clothes or jewelry. She lived an incredibly comfortable life in the Duke's manor, far better than the legitimate daughters of minor officials. This time, I will carry out her fabrications one by one. She used to falsely accuse me of ripping her dresses, snatching her jewelry, and beating her maids. I took people to her courtyard, slashed her clothes for all 4 seasons to shreds, smashed her jewelry, and then kicked the maid named Chinner by her side out of the manor. She once complained to others, saying I wouldn't let the kitchen send her food or charcoal, making her starve and freeze. So I just locked her straight in the woodshed, gave her no food, starving her until she was dizzy and fighting with the dogs in the woodshed for scraps. Lin Xianshui couldn't take it anymore, crying as she begged me. Ayao, I was wrong. I won't dare do it again. What will it take for you to let me off? I looked down at her from above. Just looking at you disgusts me. Should I slash up your face or kick you out of the Duke's manor? Lin Xianshui shrank back. Neither outcome was one she would choose. Lin Xianshui couldn't get into Lu Ziyu's courtyard and didn't dare to go bother father. So in the end, she actually went to beg in front of my mother. She put on a show of committing suicide in front of my mother, begging my mother to save her. Mother came to have a heart-to-heart with me that night. Ayao, even if you dislike Miss Lin, don't take things too far. I held Mother's hand. Mother, after that incident at the birthday banquet earlier, Lin Xianshui shouldn't remain in the manor. Why not send her out of the manor and let her live in another residence? A trace of doubt also flashed across Mother's brow. By rights we should do that, but your father disagrees, saying that would be letting down his late cousin. Everyone says my mother married a devoted husband, and aside from the chambermaids from his early years, there was no one else in the inner quarters. Back then, he promised my mother there would be no other women in his life, and only then did Mother marry him. But what father really had his eye on was nothing more than mother's family background. In my past life, my maternal grandfather was falsely accused of plotting rebellion and died unjustly. Father then put my fallen mother under house arrest in the manor and brought Lin Shanshui's mother, Lin Yanji, in to take charge of the household. Lin Yanji flaunted her power in front of my mother, seized her dowry, and sneered that my mother had been as stupid as a pig all these years, kept completely in the dark, suffering the grief of losing her father and then learning that her husband had long since betrayed her. Mother fell gravely ill and was bedridden after a stroke. When I think of mother lying in bed in the past life, unable to speak and looking dazed, it feels like 10,000 ants gnawing at my heart. Mom, speaking of this, I recently sent someone to follow Chiner, the maid who was kicked out from Lin Xianshui's side. I thought she would go back to her hometown, but saw she went to work for a family in Yongyanfang. And what is more? Mother asked alertly. What is more? I hugged Mother. Also saw Dad go to that house twice. I don't know what kind of household it is. The smile on Mother's face froze, and she reached out to stroke my face. Ayao, rest well. Mom and your grandfather's family will look into this matter. More than half a month had passed since the birthday banquet. One day when I was going out, I was stopped by Gu Jingcheng, who was waiting at the gate. Gu Jingcheng looked a bit thinner, and his face no longer held the arrogance he used to show me. Over this past half-month, I heard he came to the Duke's manor a few times, but the gatekeepers drove him away every time, just as I ordered. The circle in the capital is only so big. When some people heard that Gu Jingcheng had been cast aside by me, their attitude toward him changed immediately. The shops that usually bought Gu Jingcheng's calligraphy and paintings at high prices wouldn't even spare a glance at the works he carried in, simply sending him away. The young noblemen who used to drink wine and compose poetry with Gu Jingcheng stopped including him in their private gatherings. At a time like this, he had no choice but to come back to me. Ah, Yao. Gu Jingcheng gazed at me deeply. Have you been well these past few days? I touched the pearl earrings on my lobes, my complexion rosy. This young lady is naturally doing much better than you. Gu Jingcheng looked haggard. Even his voice was dry and hoarse. Ayao, it was my fault. These past days, I really missed you like crazy. I was so impulsive before, only because I like you too much. Guilt and remorse surfaced on his face, and his eyes were full of hurt. I put on a look of sudden realization. So, that is how it is. You argued with me and sided with Lin Xiangshui, but actually, it was all because you care too much about me. Gu Jingcheng nodded firmly. Ayao, give me one more chance. I will treat you right. Oh, I raised my tone. What are you going to do? Seeing me relent, Gu Jingcheng's face clearly brimmed with joy. Ayao, don't you like horseback riding? How about we go riding together the day after tomorrow? As soon as he finished speaking, I let out a cold laugh. Horseback riding. So it is this trick. Great Yu has always had the custom of the spring festival. 100 Flowers Fairies. Every 3 years, the Empress personally hosts a talent showcase to select eligible noble ladies in the capital to portray the 100 Flowers Fairies. Zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, and dance one fairy is chosen for each of the 5 arts. The noble ladies of the capital all consider being selected as a 100 Flowers Fairy an honor. Once selected, not only do they receive rewards from the palace, but their fame for talent will also soar throughout the capital. I have been good at dancing since I was young. My mother hired the famous Lady Gongsun to teach me, and by the age of 12, my dancing was extraordinary. Barring any accidents, this year's dance fairy would definitely be me. But in my previous life, an accident happened just like that. The day before the selection, Gu Jingcheng came to find me, wanting to take me horseback riding. Gu Jingcheng always said his studies were heavy and he had no time to keep me company, so when he sought me out on his own initiative that day, I naturally agreed with joy. But who would have known that the horse at the riding grounds would suddenly go mad, becoming completely uncontrollable? I fell from the horse's back, injured my left foot, could no longer dance, and missed this talent showcase. Meanwhile, Lin Shanshui rose to prominence at the talent showcase with a single dance, and was selected by the Empress as the dance fairy for this spring festival. Because of the Empress's personal selection, Lin Shanshui finally gained a foothold in the circle of noble ladies in the capital. And I was resting at home due to a foot injury, feeling dejected that I could no longer dance. Gu Jingcheng was extremely gentle with me during that time. Yao, do you know, actually, I am truly happy that you don't have to go to the spring festival and show your face in public. Those flower fairies don't even compare to a fraction of you. I saw the smile in Gu Jingcheng's eyes clearly. He rarely had such a delighted expression. A trace of warmth surged in my heart. I simply took it as him caring about me too much. Later, I finally understood. It was he who drugged the horse in advance, causing my injury and preventing me from dancing. He used my lifelong regret in exchange for Lin Shanshui's moment to shine. Before my sickbed, every bit of delight, and every bit of a smile he revealed was for another person. I didn't expect that in this life, with Gu Jingcheng barely able to take care of himself right now. He was still thinking about helping Lin Shanshui fight for a chance. All right, then let's go horseback riding. I curled my lips. On the day agreed for riding, I changed into hue clothing suitable for riding and archery. Before leaving the Duke's manor, Lu Ziyu sent someone to find me, saying he had something to tell me. I coiled the horsewhip around my hand. What a coincidence. I was just wanting to go see brother, too. Lu Ziyu lay on the bed looking sickly, and inside the room was a thick, lingering smell of herbal medicine. For nearly a month, he drank medicine every day, but his illness did not improve. Instead, it went from bad to worse. Father became anxious and even sought out imperial physicians from the palace for diagnosis and treatment. But unfortunately, it had no effect. Lu Ziyu often hugged a pot of orchids and muttered to himself, as if hallucinating. That pot of orchids was given to him by Lin Shanshui. He treated it like a treasure, pouring all the suppressed affection he held in his heart for Lin Shanshui into this pot of orchids. Cough, cough. Yao, you are here. Lu Ziyu was in poor spirits, and there was a lingering gloom in his eyes as he looked at me. Yao, don't practice dancing for these few days. Let Lady Gongsun go instruct Shuer. Lady Gongsun is a famous teacher my mother hired for me. She performed in the palace when the late emperor was on the throne, and her dancing is unrivaled. She agreed to teach me, firstly because I am naturally gifted, and secondly because my maternal grandmother once did her a favor. I really underestimated Lin Shanshui. She actually still has a way to send word in, asking you to help her find a teacher. I glanced at the orchid by Lu Ziyu's bedside. The imperial physician naturally won't be able to diagnose anything, just by looking at Lu Ziyu. I buried a hallucinogenic drug in that pot of orchids. As long as Lu Ziyu gets close to that pot every day, he will never see a day where his spirits improve. Lu Ziyu's brows furrowed into the character Chuan. Yao, you've been taught by famous masters since you were young. So, what is the harm in letting Shuer have a few days? You are all grown up now. You shouldn't be so narrow-minded. I am narrow-minded? I nodded. Fine. I'll go break Lin Shanshui's legs right now, and show you what narrow-minded really means. You dare? If you dare touch a single hair on her head, don't blame me for disregarding our sibling bond. Lu Ziyu forced himself up from the bed, staggering toward me with a vicious look in his eyes. He reached out to hit me, but I whipped him back with a backhand strike. Crack! A bloody welt stood out starkly where Lu Ziyu's collar was slightly open. Lu Ziyu, when you raised your hand against me, did you ever consider our sibling bond? A sharp pain shot through my heart, and I raised my hand to lash the whip onto Lu Ziyu again. Beads of blood scrambled to gush out from Lu Ziyu's split flesh. Lu Ziyu had been sick in bed for a long time and had absolutely no strength to resist. He was whipped to the ground. He clutched his wound, gasping heavily. Lu Yao, you are crazy. I am your older brother. I, Lu Yao, have no older brother. I walked away carrying the blood-dripping whip. I wasn't saying that out of anger. In my past life, right before I died, I asked Lu Ziyu resentfully, "How can you face mother after treating me like this?" Lu Ziyu sneered and spat out a sentence. "That is your mother." In the days since my rebirth, I recalled how, in my past life, after Lin Yanji entered the Duke's manor, she made things difficult for me at every turn, yet treated Lu Ziyu with a smile. I began to harbor a different suspicion regarding Lu Ziyu's origins. So after I secured Chinner's whereabouts, I told Mother, relying on the power of my maternal grandfather's family to follow this clue, we would definitely be able to get to the bottom of it. I arrived at the horse farm on the outskirts, dressed in Hu attire, seeing that Gu Jingcheng had already been waiting for quite a while. He wasn't as disheveled as the previous 2 days. He had specially dressed up, with a jade crown binding his hair, a brocade robe on his body, and a jade pendant of excellent quality hanging at his waist. I could tell at a glance that jade pendant was still the one I gave before. Looking at it now, it was truly an eyesore. "Ah Yao, you are here." Gu Jingcheng's eyes lit up as he walked towards me, leading a horse. "Ah Yao, I picked a good horse for you. It suits you perfectly." He led over a snow-white mare that looked very docile. Kaiyue also exclaimed from the side, "Miss, this horse is so beautiful." Only I knew how terrifying this horse was when it went crazy. I also led a black horse out of the stable. Since young Master Gu chose a horse for me, I'll choose one for young Master Gu as well. Gu Jingcheng glanced at the tall black horse, then turned back to look at the brown horse he had picked for himself. After hesitating for a moment, he smiled and said, "All right, then thank you for your kindness, Ah Yao." Gu Jingcheng thoughtfully came over to help me mount the white horse, when he inadvertently caught sight of the whip with congealed blood in my hand. The smile on his face faded by half. "Ah Yao, are you hurt? Where did the blood on the whip come from?" I looked at him with a half smile. Simone in the manor was disobedient, so I taught them a lesson. Guess who it was? Without waiting for Gu Jingcheng to react, I squeezed the horse's belly with my legs and galloped forward. "Gu Jingcheng, catch up to me, and I'll tell you." Soon, Gu Jingcheng caught up on his black horse, a Yao who got in trouble. "Did you clash with Miss Lin again?" I turned back with a bright smile. "That is right. She actually wanted to compete with me for the title of 100 Flowers Fairy, so I crippled her leg. Say, did I do a good job?" Gu Jingcheng's expression shifted, the hatred in his eyes nearly impossible to suppress. At the same time, the black horse beneath him let out a neigh. Nay, the black horse leaped and reared up uncontrollably. "Hoo! Whoa!" Gu Jingcheng pulled the reins tight, sweating profusely. But how could a crazed horse be controlled so easily? Gu Jingcheng was carried forward by the crazed horse for several miles, then thrown off its back. I rode the gentle white horse leisurely over, looking down at the person curled up on the ground in pain. Gu Jingcheng convulsed with pain, catching a glimpse of the white horse grazing calmly out of the corner of his eye, and a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. I rode my horse over Gu Jingcheng's legs, my voice gentle. "Gu Jingcheng, did you think you were the only one who could play dirty?" "Ah." Gu Jingcheng didn't answer me. His face was deathly pale as he fainted from the pain. I had someone send Gu Jingcheng back and find a random doctor on the way. The doctor stroked his beard and sighed with regret. "I am afraid this young gentleman's left leg is done for. Even if it is set, he might not be able to walk like a normal person in the future." "That is good." I nodded indifferently, yanked the jade from Gu Jingcheng's waist, and gave it to the doctor as his fee. The laws of this dynasty state that those with disabled limbs cannot serve as officials. Gu Jingcheng, you have no hope for an official career in this life. When I returned to the Duke's manor, the house was in complete chaos. My maternal grandfather and uncle had both arrived, and Mother was in a standoff with Father in the main hall. Kneeling below were Lin Yanji and Lin Xianshui, looking panicked. "Lu Shifeng, when I married you, What did you promise me? To think you've been keeping a mistress on the side for all these years." The blood rushed to Mother's head. Her eyes were filled with grief, and she could barely stand. I stepped forward quickly to support Mother. "Mother, what is going on? Who is Father's mistress?" Mother shed tears, pointing at the Ava Corporation mother and daughter kneeling on the ground. "The good deed. Your father did see if he has the face to admit it." Father looked embarrassed, showing both shame and resentment. "Lanner, I have been meticulously considerate to you all these years. Ava Corporation was a mistake I made in a moment of confusion when I was young. I am only sincere to you." Lin Yanji pulled Lin Xiangshe down to kowtow to Mother. "I beg Madam to spare us mother and daughter a way out. We will surely know our place." I swept a glance at Lin Xiangshue's trembling shoulders. "If you knew your place, why would you fake an identity to move into the Duke's estate? Shouldn't you have hidden far away?" Lin Xiangshui looked up, casting a resentful glance at me. Lin Yanji sobbed uncontrollably, pulling Lin Xiangshui into her arms. "The Duke hasn't come to see us mother and daughter for a long time. The child really misses her birth father, so I begged the Duke to let Schwer enter the manor. Madam, 1,000 wrongs, 10,000 wrongs. It is all my fault. I beg Madam not to implicate others." Lin Yanji was over 30. Her brows and eyes held the graceful melancholy of a Jiangnan woman. When she frowned and shed tears, it truly tugged at one's heartstrings. Looking at her well-maintained appearance, presumably her life hasn't been bad these past years. Father also lowered his stance. "Lanner, that was an unintentional mistake back then. Forgive me this once. I won't hide anything from you ever again." An unintentional mistake. The maternal uncle snorted coldly. "Lu Shifeng, you registering the mistress's son under my sister's name, was that also an unintentional mistake?" As soon as the words were out, the mother and daughter from Ava Corporation shuddered. Father put on a look of shock and suspicion. "Big brother, what do you mean by this? Lanner and I have only one legitimate son, Ziyu. When has there ever been anyone else?" The maternal uncle said sternly. "We've already investigated thoroughly. Lu Ziyu isn't Lanner's biological son at all. Lanner had a difficult labor back then and delivered a stillborn infant, and you seized the opportunity to bring in a mistress's son to replace him. If you still deny it, we'll bring out all the witnesses and material evidence, and call the patriarchs of both families out to bear witness." Grandfather's family had already investigated everything thoroughly, explaining the details of what happened back then with crystal clarity. Father's expression was so rigid, he couldn't say a word. Seeing Father's attitude of silent admission, Mother turned her head away, completely disheartened. "Dad, is what Uncle said true?" Lu Ziyu's weak voice came from outside the door. His body was still stained with blood from my whipping, and his face didn't have a trace of color. Seeing he hadn't even changed his clothes, I knew he wanted to come and tattle, to let everyone see the evidence of my crime of whipping my older brother. But as he was helped over by a servant boy, he heard the truth of his birth right at the door. He wasn't a legitimate son at all, not even a concubine's son, but merely the son of a mistress kept outside. The pride and composure he always wore on his face shattered inch by inch in Father's silence. "Dad, Mom." Lu Ziyu's voice trembled. Except for Lin Yanji's pained gaze sweeping over his wounds, no one present responded to him. Father looked at Mother with a face full of guilt. "Lanner, I was out of my mind back then. I was afraid you'd be too heartbroken over losing our son, so I resorted to this bad plan." Mother gave a sorrowful smile, a smile that made my heart ache and swell. "Lu Shifeng, we've been husband and wife for 20 years. I thought we treated each other with sincerity, but you've deceived and hid things from me all these years, violating the way of husband and wife in my heart. Let us divorce." Father's eyes were filled with grief. "Lanner, you know how many years we've been married. Do you really want to disregard our past affection like this?" My maternal grandfather, who had been watching from the side, spoke up. "Lu Shifeng, our Shu family can no longer be in laws with the Lu family. Although maternal grandfather was advanced in years, he was hale and hearty, with a sharp gaze. He had weathered the ups and downs of officialdom for many years. Once he spoke, there was absolutely no room for turning back. Father turned to look at me. "Ah, Yao, persuade your mother. Can she really bear to let a family fall apart just like this?" I nodded repeatedly with red eyes, but said to Mother, "Mother, if you divorce, you must take me and Ah Wan along. If Mother leaves, we won't stay here either." Father was almost so angry he fell over backward. "Lu Yao, if you dare walk out this door today, you will no longer be my Lu Shifang's daughter." I pointed at Lin Shanshui kneeling on the ground. "I am not, then she is, right?" A chill rose in my eyes. In my past life, Lin Shanshui's slander against me, Lu Ziyu's wrongful accusations, and Lin Yanji's evil deeds, actually none of them could be separated from Father's tacit consent and his sitting by and doing nothing. He never truly loved me as his daughter. The Duke and Duchess of Lu, a loving couple for many years, divorced. This matter became a topic of conversation for many in the capital over tea and after meals. Some people asked around carefully and found out that it was actually because Lu Shifang, the Duke of Lu, not only kept a mistress but also pulled a switch to raise the mistress's son as the legitimate son. Many noble families shook their heads repeatedly. If the former was a lack of moral discipline, the latter violated a major taboo of the noble families. When people from the Duke of Lu's manor went out, they were all pointed at and gossiped about. Mom and I live in a house right next to my grandfather's place. That place was actually part of Mom's dowry to begin with. Father sent people to look for us quite a few times, but they were all chased off by the servants my grandfather's family sent over. I didn't have the energy to deal with them. I was focused solely on practicing dancing under Lady Gongsun's instruction. In this life, I am going to fight hard to become the 100-flower fairy for my own sake. The Empress was holding a talent showcase in the palace, and Lin Shanshui went to attending as the concubine-born daughter of the Duke of Lu's manor. Aunt's mother and I left the Duke of Lu's manor. Lin Yanxi just moved right in openly. But since her background was shady, just like in my past life, there was no way Lu Shifang could make her the official mistress of the manor. At best, she could only be a concubine, and her children would forever be merely concubine-born. "Sister, can't you and Mother stop being angry? Brother and I both really want you to come back." Lin Shanshui, decked out in a pearl-studded flowing fairy dress, walked up to me with a graceful sway and curtsied. The other noble ladies at the gathering all looked over, and even the palace eunuchs couldn't help sneaking glances at us. That filthy drama in the Duke of Lu's manor has really spread until the whole capital knows about it. Seeing the scheming look in Lin Shanshui's eyes, I brushed away the hand she reached out to hold mine. "You guys aren't missing me and Mother. You are missing Mother's dowry, aren't you?" I mercilessly exposed the desperate situation of the Duke's manor. By the time the title of Duke of Lu passed to Lu Shifang's generation, the family fortune was depleted. They held no important positions in court, and signs of decline were already apparent. That is why Lu Shifang was so desperate to marry the Prime Minister's daughter back then. Now that my mother has divorced, taking away the connections of the Prime Minister's manor and her generous dowry, the Duke's manor is nothing like it used to be. Don't come begging to me when you are out of silver, and don't try to claim we're related. I only have one sister, a Wan. I wasn't in the mood to keep up appearances with Lin Shanshui anymore. Lin Shanshui's face turned red, then white, and she wanted to put on a frail, teary-eyed act again. It is a pity that as soon as I turned to leave, the others lost interest in her too. That little bit of acting of hers really isn't enough to cut it in the palace. At the talent showcase, I danced the peony dance and stunned the whole room. Lady Gongsun came too, and her eyes grew slightly wet as she watched from her seat. The peony dance was created by Lady Gongsun years ago. I inherited this dance and made some slight changes. In my past life, not once was I able to show the world the brilliance of this dance. Now, I want everyone to see the blood and sweat, Lady Gongsun, and I have poured into it. This dance is exquisite. The Empress praised me approvingly. A Yao dances as gracefully as a fairy. I was handpicked on the spot to be the dance fairy for this spring festival, and no one in the crowd had any objections. Princess Ningyue specifically came to find me, saying she wanted me to give her some pointers on dancing. Given such a distinct honor, naturally, I wouldn't refuse. On the other side, Lin Xianshui still went up to dance, wanting to show off her talent. I have to admit, she didn't dance badly either. If I weren't here, she certainly could have taken the top spot. Her Majesty, the Empress glanced at her dancing, then looked at me and smiled. Miss Lin danced quite well. It is just a pity that the pearl and jade appeared before. Before Her Majesty, the Empress had even finished speaking, Lin Xianshui's face went deathly pale. I knew these words had struck her two fatal sore spots. Her Majesty, the Empress, still called her Miss Lin, indicating that she did not recognize her identity as a member of the Liu family, saying, "The pearl and jade appeared before," was clearly telling everyone that she is inferior to me. When the talent showcase ended, and everyone was leaving the palace, Lin Xianshui, who had reached her limit, blocked my path. This time, there was no audience around. She didn't put on a pitiful act, and the resentment and jealousy in her eyes were sharp as needles. "Lu Yao, you and I are both father's daughters. You have so much, so why aren't you willing to yield even a little bit to me?" I sneered. "Because you aren't worthy. In my past life, I pitied her and yielded to her. But what I got in return was her taking a mile when given an inch. For someone like Lin Xianshui, showing kindness will only bear evil fruit. When Lin Xianshui tried to leave, I had someone stop her. Wait, you forgot something." Lin Xianshui showed a look of confusion, but very quickly she started to scream. I ripped the pearls off her dress and threw them into the ditch, smashed the jade hairpin on her head, and then slapped her twice across the face. She tried to lunge at me to claw and fight, but she was held back by the servants at my side. I took in the sight of her looking as pathetic as a bitter woman, and a genuine smile spilled onto my face. "All right. You can go back and snitch now. Say that I bullied you." The spring festival was held grandly and was very successful. The 5 of us selected as fairies became known to almost everyone in the capital. Everyone in the capital remembered our figures dancing like fairies at the festival. People coming to propose marriage and play matchmaker arrived endlessly day after day. Kaiyue teased, "The threshold of our manor is about to be trampled flat by matchmakers." At this time, a limping Gu Jingsheng found me again. He must have observed for a long time to find me at an opera house I often visit. A Yao. As soon as Gu Jingcheng entered my private room, he knelt down before me. "A Yao, have you really had a change of heart towards me? Really, don't want me anymore?" He was terribly gaunt, his cheekbones protruding, his frame no longer as upright and broad as it used to be, like a heartbroken man who had been abandoned. I sat on the carved wooden chair looking down at him. "Gu Jingcheng, when you plotted to break my leg for Lin Xianshui, did you ever expect this day would come?" Gu Jingcheng was shocked. I poured a cup of clear tea into a teacup. "Yes, I know you and Lin Xianshui have long been having a secret affair. Seeing you put on this act in front of me is disgusting." Gu Jingcheng explained with an ashen face. "Ah, Yao, it is not what you think." He said that he and Lin Xianshui had known each other since childhood, that she helped him when he was most down and out, and that he only kept her in his heart because of that kindness. It was like I had heard the funniest joke in the world, and I laughed until I trembled. I wiped the tears of laughter from the corners of my eyes. "Gu Jingcheng, didn't I help you when you were down and out? When you were penniless? When you were bullied by disciples from noble families? When no one appreciated your talent? Who stood by your side to help you? Is this how you repay my kindness?" Gu Jingcheng shuffled forward 2 steps on his knees, his eyes scarlet. "Ah, Yao, you've helped me so much already. Won't you help me again? My official career can't just end like this. Help me, you surely have a way. I can get engaged to you right now, and I'll never again splash the teacup in my hand tipped over, and the tea flowed down from the top of Gu Jingcheng's head. Gu Jingcheng was drenched, like a drowned rat, frozen in place. I elegantly set down the teacup. Gu Jingcheng, you have no more chances. Neither you nor Lin Shanshui will have a way out. Ever since I saw Gu Jingcheng at the opera house that day, I haven't left the house for several days straight. Every day, reading, painting, and practicing dance in different courtyards of the mansion. I didn't go out until Princess Ningyu privately sent someone with a message asking to meet me. Princess Ningyu had disguised herself as a young boy and went with me to a music house in the capital to listen to tunes and watch dances. The two of us shared similar interests and really hit it off. Who would have thought that halfway through our chat, two servant boys who came in with tea would shut the door, draw daggers from their sleeves, and attack us from both sides. I shielded the terrified Princess Ningyue behind me and shouted, "Assassins! Protect the princess!" In an instant, several shadow guards rushed in from outside, and the sounds of fighting erupted in the room. One of the assassins threw his dagger at me before dying, slicing my arm. The other assassin was kept alive and handed over to the Dali Temple for strict interrogation. Princess Ningyue cried as she worried over my bleeding arm. "A Yao, your hand." I gently and apologetically touched the princess's face. "Princess, it is just a small wound." I knew the assassins weren't coming for Princess Ningyue at all. Their target was me. Gu Jingcheng and his lot wouldn't just let it go. They were bound to make a move on me. What I was waiting for was this very opportunity to send them to their doom. The guards sent the assassin to the Dali Temple, where he was interrogated overnight, finally forcing out the name of the mastermind. Lu Ziyu, Gu Jingcheng, and Lin Shangshui, none of them could escape. Assassinating a royal descendant is a capital crime, punishable by beheading according to the laws of this dynasty. Lu Ziyu screamed injustice, claiming he had no idea Princess Ningyu was there that day too. But the assassin raising his blade against Princess Ningyue was a fact witnessed by everyone. Lu Shifeng used his title as a duke to save his son Lu Ziyu's life. The Lu family was stripped of their title. Lu Ziyu and Lin Shanshui were exiled, and Gu Jingcheng was beheaded. On the day Lu Ziyu and Lin Shanshui were exiled, I went outside the city gate to watch. Lin Shanshui was wearing shackles, her face covered in filth, crying and shouting, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go to those God-forsaken places." "Father, go beg His Majesty to spare us. It was all Gu Jingcheng's idea. It has nothing to do with us." "I won't go! I won't go!" The escorting officer slapped her to the ground and shouted, "Shut up! Is it up to you whether you go or not?" Lu Ziyu was very silent at the side. He was already ill to begin with, and having been repeatedly tortured in prison during this period, his health had deteriorated even further, leaving him completely sallow and emaciated. No one could recognize that this was the once dashing noble young master. Lu Ziyu saw me and suddenly rushed towards me, his eyes scarlet. "Lu Yao, are you satisfied now?" The officers dragged Lu Ziyu back, punching and kicking him. Lin Yanji and Lu Shifeng went to pull the officers away in distress, but were kicked aside by them instead. I looked at Lu Ziyu, who had been beaten black and blue, and shook my head. Not satisfied. "You aren't dead yet, so how could I be satisfied?" A few more days passed and Gu Jingcheng was executed. I sat in a nearby tea house and from the window, I could see the execution ground perfectly. Gu Jingcheng, dressed in rags, was dragged onto the execution platform, looking so dispirited it seemed he only had half a life left. "It is noon. Proceed with the execution." The executioner raised the broadsword, gleaming with a chilling cold light. Gu Jingcheng suddenly looked up and glanced my way, locking eyes with me from a distance. He opened his mouth to say something, but just as he did, the blade above his head came down. Beside me, Caillou was so scared she covered her eyes. I looked at that bloody mess on the ground, recalling the pain of when I once collapsed in a pool of blood. Gu Jingcheng, unable to say your last words before dying. You must be in such pain, right? Seeing you leave in such agony and despair, I am relieved. When I returned to the manor, I saw a scruffy, disheveled man kneeling on the ground at the gate. He kept shouting non-stop. Lanner, Kaiyue said in my ear, in an incredulous voice. Miss, that looks like the former duke. Ignore him, let's go. I stepped into the main gate and ordered the servants guarding the door to drive Lu Shifeng away. My younger sister, Awan, trotted over holding the corner of her skirt, looked up at me, and asked, Big sister, why can't we let Dad in? I bent down, stroking Awan's round and cute flower bud buns. Awan, not all parents deserve to be parents. He bullied Mom, so he doesn't deserve to be our dad anymore. Lu Shifeng didn't care much for Awan in the first place, and Awan didn't have deep feelings for him. Awan nodded, seemingly half understanding, and said, The one who bullied Mom is a bad guy, and I don't want the bad guy to be my dad. After Lu Shifeng was reduced to a commoner, he was kicked out of his original mansion and could only live with Lin Yanji in the filthy slums of the capital. He went to kneel at the entrance of my mother's mansion several times, weeping bitterly and begging my mother to change her mind. My mother didn't even spare him a glance. So Lu Shifeng changed his tactics. He beat Lin Yanji black and blue and dragged her to the gate of our residence. Lanner, I will sell this slut tomorrow. It is all her fault. She will never appear in our lives again. Lanner, Ayao, Awan. Let's start over as a family. Lu Shifeng, you heartless bastard. Lin Yanfeng's delicate facade was completely torn apart. She grabbed Lu Shifeng, biting and gnawing at him, looking like she wanted to perish together with him. The two fought at the doorway until they were bloody and battered. It was truly unsightly. The maternal uncle directly reported them to the authorities on the pretext of causing a street disturbance, having the officials arrest them. Lin Yanji and Lu Shifeng were locked in prison for a few days. When they were finally released, they heard that Lu Ziyu and Lin Xiangshu had been robbed by mountain bandits on their way to exile, and died without a whole corpse remaining. Lu Shifeng spat blood from terror, and after waking up, he suffered a stroke and lay in bed unable to move. Lin Yanji went crazy after hearing the news. Whenever she saw young boys or girls, she would grab them and shout, Shwer, Ziyu! When Kaiyue told me all this, I didn't show the slightest bit of surprise, because I watched with my own eyes how the two of them breathed their last. Those mountain bandits took the money and did the job clean and quick. Princess Ningyue came to find me happily, saying she had good news for me. The Empress bestowed a marriage upon me. The intended is the heir of the Marquis of Genuan. The heir is gallant and handsome, the object of admiration for the noble ladies of the capital. Quite a few people envy me for landing such a good match. The Marquis of Genuan's household indeed conducts matters impeccably. They grandly prepared 48 carries for the betrothal gifts. The Marchioness of Genuan praised me repeatedly for being beautiful and intelligent, holding no grievances against me because of my father's situation. Me wedding with the heir was set for 2 years later, which was the year I turned 17. Exactly the time I got married in my previous life. The heir had bright eyes and white teeth, and a straightforward nature. He always tried to find ways to make me happy, to make me smile. He said, Ayao, you don't seem happy enough. I curved my eyes. Hair, I've been smiling the whole time. No, Ayao, you aren't smiling. His slender fingers brushed across the space between my brows. The smile in my eyes faded. Reborn into a new life, I know the human heart is fickle. I can treat him with mutual respect, and I can manage the household. But I am marrying the man, not giving my heart. I will never again be like other girls my age, naively full of adoration for someone. Life can start over, but you are only 17 once. My 17-year-old self died in the bandit-ridden wilderness. Life is long. I have splendor and wealth, but never again my youth.